Yeah,
all about.
absolutely.
So enough about me, though. I kind of wanted to ask about who is Todd Brooks, and where is Todd Brooks from, and how did he get here in Naples?
Yeah, well, that's a long story, so I'll give you the abbreviated version. But
All right.
um, yeah, I spent most of my life in Kansas City. We moved down here in 2010 with our family. But we had worked for a company in Kansas City for about 14 years, and things took a southern turn when the housing crisis hit, and the company I was with, they struggled. So that combined with a few personal family, problems with some deaths in the family and that stuff, we just decided we wanted a fresh start. So we had friends in Naples, and we'd been visiting here, once a year for about 3 or 4 years, and we both, my wife and I, agreed that it was paradise, and we already knew we loved it, so we decided we have to figure out. I was like, how do we get from Kansas City to there? So we pretty much sold everything that we owned. We sold our house, sold our cars, except for one, and sold. I mean, we even sold the kids' toys. But we had to do what we had to do. It was a bad time, and
Yeah.
we decided to take a chance. And I didn't want to ever work for anybody again. I wanted to work for myself, and honestly, I wanted to work for myself, and I wanted to take care of people the way that I was promised. So that was the goal, and it took a long time, and it was really, really hard. Which is part of, and I think a lot of people have that same story, where they invested their blood, sweat, tears, their money. How many people were on the brink of not making it, and then they fought through it and made it. And I think that's what makes this coronavirus that much harder. People have spent their whole lives working for their businesses and their families, and then it feels like, okay, we just took you, picked you up, and set you back. It's like Candyland when you land on the slide, and then you got to go back to square one.
Yeah.
So, but we got down to Naples, and Naples is awesome, and it's beautiful. The weather's nice, but the first year we were here was strange to me. My son, or not my son, I'm sorry, my daughter she was like playing soccer or something like the day before Christmas, and I was like, this is so wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no snow on the ground, it's not cold. I was like, we're in shorts. So the first year, I think we were probably a little leery, but the longer you stay here, and then you get to know the people, and it becomes home quickly. So, and the people are phenomenal. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I moved here from Boston, and I don't miss that weather and snow, or all the things that come in there. And I think it's true. Like when you first move in here, it's hard to get used to it, especially if you come from a big, relatively big city. Naples it's not a small city by any means, but it's it's definitely not a Boston, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and it has a small town feel.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it takes
absolutely. So.
certainly takes a little bit to adjust. So then I wanted to get into what you kind of alluded to a little bit when you said that you wanted to never work for anybody again, and you wanted to treat people right. Is that when you decided to open Brooks Burgers, or did you do something before you moved there?
No, we had, it was a bad year, and we decided to just go for it. So like I said, we sold everything we had, and then we had to borrow some money, and then we moved down here. And we actually had another restaurant that we were buying. Um, it was over off Pine Ridge and Airport. And I came down about 3 months ahead of my wife to get it finished. And when I got here, we found out that all the paperwork and everything they said was fraudulent. So I was like, oh, what are we going to do? Because all our money was tied up in escrow with this restaurant that we were supposed to buy. And so I called my wife and I said, it's not going to happen. There's no way. I said, we were misled. It's not true. So I was frustrated. And I was like, I'll just come back to Kansas City and we'll get a job and try again or do something. But we came down. I happened to be driving by Limburgers, which is what Brooks Burgers used to be called. That's where we started. It's an old kind of dive restaurant. Old Florida feel with the rocks and the wood shingled roof, and so I went in there to get a burger, and the place was empty, and I was kind of looking around, and it was kind of unique and strange, and I wasn't sure I wanted to eat there, to be honest with you, but the people came out, and they were the guy that owned it. He was a really nice guy named Tony, and so I decided just to have a beer and I'd go on my way. So um, I had a beer and I was talking with him, and I told him about what had just happened. We had literally gone to sign. We were going to go sign on this restaurant. Whole deal fell through, literally at the table with the lawyers. And I was like, it doesn't feel right. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. So we left, and thank God we left because we would have lost everything. But so he said, Limburgers is for sale. And I kind of looked around and I was like, I was a chef by trade my whole life. I did fine dining, I did steakhouses. Everything I did was, I tried to, it was kind of extravagant and dramatic. And I looked around the place and I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, who would buy this place, And then 10 days later, I bought it. And then my wife came down and she goes, what the hell did you buy? And I said, listen, I said, I know that it looks a little rough, but I said, if you go around town in Naples, every person in this town has heard of Limburgers. They tell stories about they went there when they were in high school, when they were younger, they did this. It's been around since like the early 80s, late 70s, something like that. And I said, everybody knows it. I said, it's got rich history. I said, it doesn't have, it needs to be bulldozed and redone, and the food needs to be redone. Everything needs to be run. I said, but it has rich history. Everybody knows where it's at. I said, so I bought it. I said, we're going to rejuvenate this place, and so that's what we did. We both worked. I worked in the kitchen, cooking burgers, which was different for me, but I was like, let's do things with burgers that are fun. My wife ran the front of the house, and my daughter sat at the bar and did her homework every day. And that for about 2 years we did that to kind of scrape by, and we had one car, and I rode a scooter, which was kind of strange, until I got ran off the road about 3 times, and I was like, all right, I'm done with the scooter. I'd rather walk, but. So that's how we ended up with. We went, and then we changed Limburgers over to Brooks Burgers because Limburgers had kind of, it kind of just ran its path. So we thought we would benefit from doing a name change. We had changed everything anyways. All the food had changed, everything had changed. So, we cleaned up the inside, and then we redid the food.
And this is the location this was the location that is currently which location?
This one's downtown at 3rd Avenue South and 41. It's the original.
Okay.
And if you're not looking for it, you won't see it. I mean, it's a little tiny dive place out of the way.
It's the one that right before you turn right into Fifth Avenue, right? It's a little bit.
Yeah, across the street from a CVS.
Okay.
On 3rd and 9th or 3rd and 41. But, the beauty of it was it's so small that we could do all the work ourselves. We weren't counting on, having to have 5, 10, 15 employees there to help us run it. So, literally, I mean, I can remember when we first opened, we had days where we did 6 or 7 people, and I remember when we did 10 people one day, and I was like, we did 10 people. So going from literally, 10 people, 15 people, 20, and just very slowly and methodically, going out and meeting the people of Naples and say, please come back, just come back, try it one time, and then the people that we did come back, that got back, we kept, and it grew from there. So it was very organic.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool story. I mean, I obviously did not know that story, but it's a success story nonetheless. So that's really cool. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the menu and how you kind of decided, because you said you had to revamp everything, including, what you were serving, and you wanted to do burgers, but you wanted to do it a little bit different. And, what was the concept that you started there? And is it sort of the same concept that you have today in the different locations as well?
Well, it's our concepts are evolving. We could talk about that in a little bit because I actually have some fun, exciting stuff that we're working on. But when we opened it, they had 50 something burgers. That was their claim to the fame and whatever. But the problem was, the restaurant wasn't busy enough to turn the food over fast and keep it fresh and things like that. So we scratched everything and just started, from ground zero. And I was like, let's do 20 burgers, not 50. So we can do 20 burgers better, and we can turn the product over. It's always fresh. So the chef side of me took it over and started working on the menu and sourcing. The beef that we sourced is from Iowa. I'm from Kansas City, so that whole Midwest thing. I wanted to make sure that we had Midwest grain-fed beef. It had to be ground to my specification and everything. So we went through that whole process of doing that. And we started to evolve the menu. We basically did the burgers, and then everybody's heard of the donut burger. I didn't invent the donut burger. We used to eat it when we were at the state fair in Missouri. The same thing with the goober burger, which is peanut butter and bacon and mayonnaise. But I said, these are burgers that people, especially tourists, are like, they're going to come in and it's going to be catchy and trendy and they'll talk about it. Well, the donut burger went crazy. So we sell so many donut burgers now, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I did it because I was like, people will talk about it, and they'll put it on social media. And I'm not very good at social media, so I have to have a lot of help with it, but it just went crazy. So people started coming in, and we went from selling a couple burgers donut burgers a day to 30 or 40 a day, and it caught on, and it was really good for advertising. But truly, my focus and what I tell everybody and anybody that I talk to, because everybody goes, well, why is your burger different? Why is it better? Because honestly, anybody can go out and source really good beef. And what it comes down to is I have a strong, deep belief in hospitality. And when we fail at that, because we do, everybody does, we make mistakes like any restaurant. And sometimes you have employees that you hire that aren't, what you expected them to be. But it hurts my feelings when we fail at it. I mean, I take it to heart. I don't sleep at night. So I don't even look at social media at nighttime. I have to look at it early in the morning, or else I can't sleep. Because if I get complaints, it just drives me wall. And so, we answer every email, every post, everything. But the hospitality, to me, makes a better burger. We buy really good beef, and we do fun stuff with it, with fun toppings, and we season it well, and we cook it well, and we use this ridiculous expensive grill that we bought, that helps us be very precise on the temperature. So we do everything we can do physically from a chef standpoint to make the burger great. But the burger's not going to taste good if you're not treated well. If they don't say hi at the front door, if they don't give you good service, if you don't care. When we make a mistake, I think that's one of the big things we do. I said, we screwed up, so what do we do to fix it? It's our fault. We own it, and we do whatever we have to do to fix it. So hospitality makes everything better. It truly does. And I worked for some really great companies in the past, Gilbert Robinson and some other companies that really strive to do that. And today, hospitality is disappearing fast. And especially now with the coronavirus, it's crazy to me. Everybody's talking over video phones like we are. Everybody's bumping elbows. Everybody's afraid to shake hands, and I understand the importance of it. It just, it's kind of sad, to be honest with you, because I love the art of how do I make this guy in my restaurant that's in a bad mood, how do I put him in a good mood? There's an art. There's definitely an art to it, how do I get my employees to believe the same thing? Especially the younger generation, that have grown up and they're like, no, you take the food to them, you take your money, and you send them on their way. And it's just how things have changed and evolved. So I'm trying to do my best to keep the art of hospitality alive, because that truly is what makes a meal a meal. If you go to a steakhouse, if you get a salad, if you get a burger, whatever it is, when somebody treats you nice, your food tastes better. It just does.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw any of my other lives, but obviously I talked to other places too, and I said, one of the biggest things that I like when I go to restaurants is when the chef will come out and greet you and make sure everything's okay, and there's just something about it that makes
Yeah.
you feel special, and wow, took the time to come in and talk to me, and that's kind of what brings you back, right? Like when people are truly interested in how satisfied you are, I think it draws you back to that place because you feel like you're cared for, right? So
Yeah, and it's the ingredient of success for any restaurant. There's other restaurants in town that I love, and the food's good and everything, but the hospitality is even better. You know, Grouper and Chips is such a nice family, and they do such a good job. And when you walk in, it's kind of, hey y'all, everybody knows each other. It's so tiny and everything, but everything they do is precise, and they care about what you do. And you can do it on any scale. So when somebody's, even the chain restaurants, there's no excuse that you don't do it. Like if you look at the restaurant, Chick-fil-A, it is unbelievable how good they are at it. I mean, they're just great at it. And I sit there sometimes and I talk to my staff, and I'm like, look, if they can have thousands of stores, and they can have people of any age, kids, adults, whatever, and you go there and you have the same experience, and they tell you that it's their pleasure to help you. It's amazing to me that they can do it. It really is. But I'm like, it's such a good example of what I mean, and it can still be done.
yeah. And then I wanted to kind of go back to the history a little bit before I go back to the menu a little more. But so obviously you opened the first place that you were talking about near Fifth Avenue, and then when did you feel that there was a need to open different locations? You have 4 locations now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when was it? When was it that you feel, well, I'm outgrowing myself here, and I need to open a second location and third and now 4th location as well?
The better question is to ask when I felt it was better to go back to one. We we felt that we had something special, and you know the downtown restaurant that we have. The gentleman that owns it, that we lease it from, is a super nice guy. He's great, phenomenal guy. He's been very nice and fair to us. But at some point, he's an older gentleman. He owns the place, and at some point, he's going to sell it. So the downtown store, at some point, is probably going to be extinct, just out of the fact that somebody's going to bulldoze it. It's going to be land value. It's not a building that is going to stay standing because it has any value. So I was very afraid that we were going to get to a point where, okay, the guy's going to come up and tell us we have, a year or 2 years left, and that he's going to sell it, and we're going to be out. So I was like, we need to build a second store as a backdrop for us, so that we have, when this one goes out, we can just slide into that one. So that was the Vanderbilt store out at Vanderbilt Beach Road, next to the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that one, and it was very successful. Does the same about the same numbers as our downtown store does. Downtown's always in my heart. It's the best one, but it's got a good feel when you go into it because it's cozy. But so we opened up the Vanderbilt store because I had a gentleman named Gary he came into the downtown store, and he was constantly eating there. And he said, if you ever want to open a second one, he was like, I'm your man, I'm your man. And so one day I said, hey, what do you think about doing a second one? Do you want to do? So I was like, so we partnered on a second one. And he's a good guy, and he's kind, and he thinks a lot like I do with hospitality and taking care of people. So we did that, and it was wildly successful. So that was the original decision to make a second store. Everything after that, I wake up a lot of mornings thinking, what the heck was I thinking opening third and fourth store, to be honest with you. I still enjoy it, but it stresses me out. And I again, going back to what I said earlier, I love the art of hospitality. So, stretching myself between four stores is hard, and teaching people, look, I come in and I talk to them. I'm like, every person that walks in through this door is your paycheck. Every person that walks through this door, I said, it's your job. You signed up for this. You're a server and you signed up for hospitality. It's your job to take care of them, whether they're in a good mood, a bad mood, whether they're hard to deal with, whether they're easy to deal with, And so if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you're going to do it, you got to do it the best you can do it, and take care of these people. So the hardest part of the restaurant business to me is transferring culture and beliefs to the employees, because the restaurant industry has a lot of turnover. So you train somebody, you work with them, 2 months later they quit, you start over, and it's just constant. And there's days where I'm like, I'd like a break. I'd like to. It'd be nice to have one restaurant where I was in there and I could stand in the center and just be like, everybody do exactly what I wanted to do because it was easier.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. I've learned a lot, to be honest with you. Every store that we've opened has been different, and every store that we've opened, I've learned something that I didn't know before. So it's exciting, challenging, and stressful.
Yeah. My first experience was at the one at Vanderbilt, and I think I went for the hype of the #2 burger in America. Right? I said, all right, I gotta go check this place out because if they're claiming to be, I gotta check this out. And I went, and I mean we loved it, right? And plus it's a cool place too. I like the place in Vanderbilt, right? It's kind of like an old diner kind of feel to it, right? Really really nice. And then and then I live close to the Logan Landing one, so that makes it a lot easier for me to get there. And you have ice cream. I got kids. I mean, it's a perfect combination for me of the Logan Landing one. So, wanted to ask you in regards to the menu a little bit. If you can, obviously I don't want you to detail everything on the menu, but if you can kind of give us a little bit of a quick rundown on what someone that hasn't been, what you serve from appetizers to obviously burgers and to beers and wines and everything that you serve.
Sure. So obviously we're famous for burgers. You mentioned it. We were voted #2 in the country. That was about a year ago. About a year and a half ago. We've actually been ranked 3 different times on the national scale, and that was all on TripAdvisor. One year we got #9, one year we got #6, and then we got #2. And it was funny because the first time it happened, we were in Kansas City, and somebody called and congratulated us, and I said, for what? And they said, you got ranked #9 in the country. And I was like, what? I said, no, it's #9 in Naples. And they said, no, it's #9 in the country. And I was like, bullshit. So I went on and I looked on TripAdvisor, and I was like, holy shit. I called my wife. I said, we got to leave. We got to leave. So we were in Kansas City. We bought a plane ticket and left like 3 days before we were planning on leaving. I go, they're going to be so busy. And we got back, and that was when our success kind of started off. But we doubled our sales literally in like 3 weeks from that.
Oh wow!
So that's fun. But anyway, so the menu.
Have you ever looked who #1 is?
I have, and some of them are a New York restaurant. There's one in Woods Chapel, North Carolina, and they're all like small mom and pop places because they won't do chains in the ranking. They have to be independent restaurants, which I love. So the other one was a small mom and pop shop, and I was like, that's fantastic because I get to be #2 without the pressure of being #1. So we'll get there someday. We'll keep trying. But so our menu is obviously based on burgers. We've evolved that over the years, and we have bison burgers and turkey burgers and veggie burgers. One thing that we've been pushing really hard the last few years is trying to get into the special nutritional needs, so gluten-free, dairy-free. So we have gluten-free breads and we have gluten-free beers, and um, people love bison because it's heart healthy. Same thing with turkey burgers, veggie burgers. Um, but the burgers made us famous, so that accounts for a gigantic portion of our menu. Um, and we have 4 stores, 2 small ones, 2 big ones. The 2 smaller ones will probably stay that way, focused on burgers. We have salads, sandwiches, chicken. We're not just burgers. Full service restaurant. So the and appetizers. We do fried pickles and Wisconsin cheese curds, and I think our most popular one now is something we invented. We take our onion rings and we stuff them with cream cheese, jalapenos, and bacon. We put cheddar cheese underneath the bottom so it gets crispy and it seals the bottom of the onion ring, and then we put everything else on top. So then it cooks down. The cheddar cheese gets crispy, and then the onion ring is like a hot cream cheese with jalapenos and bacon. They're so awesome.
I heard about it. People were talking about it. I read it
Yeah.
online. I haven't tried it
Well,
yet, but I
we
heard
we
about it.
had people asking for jalapeno poppers, and I was like, I don't want to do jalapeno poppers. Everybody does jalapeno poppers. So I was like, let's do our own version, and that's where that derived from. Because another thing, when you cook a lot of onion rings, you end up with you'll have 2 or 3 in the basket. And I said, what do we do with these? I said, so then we made them, and we made a little cup out of them and put the cheese in them, and people went crazy for them. And they're pretty darn good, to be honest with you. So we have appetizers, salads, sandwiches, burgers. We run specials. We have great shakes. We use it's all 100% ice cream. We don't use the soft serve mix. We do use a soft serve machine to make it more efficient, but it's real ice cream. Um, so one of my favorite ones that we have is a strawberry goat cheese shake, and everybody looks at me funny when I say it because they're like, strawberry goat cheese shake, and I'm like, I'm telling you, try it. I go, if you don't like it, it's on the house, and I've never bought one. So it truly ends up tasting like cheesecake. It's so good. And we do a bacon caramel pecan shake, which is good, and a jalapeno raspberry shake. Kind of fun, different things like that. We have all the regular flavors too, but those are the fun ones. And we do a thing called a half and half, which is a half shake and half beer. So you take like a dark stout beer and pour it over chocolate ice cream. It's so good.
I haven't tried that either. So
So
I've been many times, but I feel like every time I go, I always get the same thing just because I like it so much, which is Todd's Way Burger.
yeah.
I always get Todd's Way with the house chips, and I kind of settle on that. But I got to try out new things. So
Well, I'll tell you the Todd's way. The secret on that one is the true Todd's way is I actually put blackened seasoning on my burger,
yeah,
and then I do it exactly the same with the egg, bacon, and cheese on it. But we have so many people that don't like the extra spice or spicy, so for the menu we kind of took it off of there. But
yeah.
the secret Todd's way burger, tell them when you order it, is you want a little blackened seasoning on the burger because it gives it just a little bit of kick. But
Awesome.
it's
That's
pretty
good.
good.
Inside information here. You sharing
That's
that?
that's a secret. That's a secret. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, and then my wife tends to get the goat cheese and pesto.
Yeah.
She gets with chicken normally, and she loves it too. And she's kind of set. We're kind of set in our ways. When we go there, we know what we're looking for. We go in, get it, and that's it. So, but
Yeah, I understand. Trust me, I don't. I honestly, I can only eat about one burger every month now because I've eaten so many. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm just like, I usually try to not eat a burger unless we're building a new one.
yeah,
But a funny story on the burgers is we have a burger called the Fig and Fine Burger, and it's got buttered onions, fig jam, and goat cheese, and it's really really good. And it came from there's a women's group here in town that was called FINE Fine, and I think it was Friends and New Endeavors, and they would go out and they would try new things together. It was a group of people, and they didn't necessarily know each other, but they would go do fun things. And one of them was they came to Brooks Burgers and they we agreed that whoever came up, you had to design your own burger, and whoever came up with the best burger, I would put it on the menu for a month. And I put it on the menu, and it went crazy. And it's been on the menu 5 years. It'll never leave.
Oh wow.
People they absolutely love it. It'll never leave the menu. Um, so there's a lot of fun stories because almost everything on the menu's got a little bit of a story to it.
Yeah.
And so the bigger restaurants, the two bigger, larger restaurants we have, we've kind of figured out over time that due to the overhead and the cost of the restaurant, that we can't live off of just burgers. We have to actually try to increase our check average and get different sales from different areas because we do well with the burgers, but we need to be a little bit more diverse. So we've been working on expanding the menus. Still focusing on burgers, but we're going to be doing kind of a tavern feel to it, where we'll have like a salmon BLT. We're going to have some fried shrimp. We're going to add some entrees basically to the menu on the larger restaurants. So if there's a group of 6, 7, 8 people that go out and somebody doesn't want a burger, then we'll have options for them. There's a little bit of talk about maybe we might have a couple of pizzas on the menu, and they won't be at the small stores. It'll just be at the two big ones. But I pretty much, my cooking experience covers just about every gamut. So I was a pizza cook, I was a salad cook, broiler saute, and worked my way up through the ranks. And so we're going to diversify and add some stuff.
Awesome. I know also and I don't know if it's true for the other locations, the one in Logan, you also have an ice cream shop right next to it, which, by the way, I had, I think it's called the garbage can, ice cream, which has 7 different kinds of chocolate in it and chocolate bars in it, and it was amazing. And especially if you love chocolate like I do. But so is that the only location that has the ice cream place?
It's the only one currently that has it. We have shakes at all the stores. That one actually has a full ice cream shop, and we do ice cream sandwiches, and we do shakes, and we have 32 flavors of ice cream. My favorite happens to be the butterscotch bomb. But yes, the garbage can is pretty amazing too. So that's been very well received, especially because it's out there. There's so many families in that area, so it's great for the kids. And we try, everything we do, we try to be accommodating. We try to minimize, we try to not gouge on the menus, try to keep prices as reasonable as we can, which everybody out there listening right now, be a little bit forgiving on the restaurants because meat prices are through the roof right now. So if you see people raising their prices, that's why. I've never seen bacon, pork, beef. I mean, prices have gone up anywhere from 40 to 70% on some of these things. So not only are the restaurants not filling their restaurant with people, but a lot of these restaurants that they're trying to serve steaks and beef and pork and I mean, even bacon is $55 a case or something crazy right now, which we used to pay 36 6 weeks ago. So people are going to have to raise some prices, and I encourage people to be understanding about it. We're if it comes down, we're obviously going to try to follow that trend down. But right now, it's a brutal environment because one, we don't have the amount of people in the restaurants we need, and the cost of operations have skyrocketed from the food. I guess everything else is the same, but the food, which is most of our costs, has skyrocketed. So.
Yeah. And I wanted to, first share a little bit of my experience, but then ask you about this too. So, my wife and I went, I believe it was last Friday, we went to the place here at Logan, and it was the first time that we had been out since the whole COVID thing, started. My wife is a high risk, high risk. So we were very careful. And then, finally after, when you spend 4 or 5 weeks with your kids at home, at some point you just want to take a break. So our neighbors were nice enough to keep our kids busy for a couple of hours, and we decided to go there. And, we had a very awesome experience, especially in the beginning. We waited for a table outside. We saw them cleaning the table. We felt very comfortable the tables were 6 feet apart. People were wearing masks. So obviously, I could personally tell that you went through, not you necessarily, but the restaurant has gone through and thought of all the details and how they continue to serve. But my question to you is, how much did COVID-19 affect you guys, and how much work did you have to put in to have all the security measures in place to make sure that you could, serve people properly?
Um, it's a cumbersome process at the restaurant level, but it wasn't a lot of work getting there. The hardest part is to get your younger staff to understand. A lot of people look at it and they're like, I'm not afraid of the coronavirus. And I'm like, it's not about you. You're 20 years old, you're young, you're strong and healthy. I go, it's about this guy walking up right here, who's, 55, not that that's old, I'm 50, but 55, that is worried about it. Or somebody that has to go home to their grandmother or grandfather. There's a lot of concern, and I'm not going to lie to you. I think this is an important message. I'm glad you asked it, okay? Because this is going to be controversial when I say it. But I think people have to do what's comfortable to them and what they feel good about. I do think we have to take care of each other. I think you have to be respectful, and so with the younger people, I would keep coming into the restaurant and they wouldn't have a mask on, and they're like, do I have to wear it? And I'm like, look, I said you have to wear it because it makes other people feel comfortable, and because it's a proven effective if you cough and things like that to keep from spreading. I said, but you have to understand that there's a gigantic part of the population that's uncomfortable with going out to eat right now. So if you can get them in here, again, this goes back to hospitality, okay? Before Corona and all this stuff started, right? If somebody came in to our restaurant downtown and said, I drink Diet Pepsi, I don't drink Diet Coke. I go next door to CVS, I go buy a Diet Pepsi, and I bring it back to my restaurant, and I go, here you go. I go, that's hospitality. If somebody walks into your restaurant and says, I'm uncomfortable here because you're not wearing gloves and masks, you put it on because that's hospitality. So yes, if you get past the medical part, it's necessary to keep people safe. If you get past the whether the argument of is it necessary, does it help in anything, it doesn't really matter to me, because making people feel comfortable is hospitality. So it doesn't matter to me. I don't care how you feel. I don't think if you feel invincible or whatever you feel, you need to, they walk up, they want to see you with a mask on. So I also encourage people, I have no issues with it. If you're in my restaurant and you see something that you don't like, tell them. Tell them. Say, look, I'd feel better if you were wearing a mask, because they all know it. And I know sometimes when I walk out the door, they take the mask off, because I walk back in and I'm like, what are you doing? I've been gone 5 minutes. So it is a teaching process, especially for the younger generation, because they feel invincible. But to me, it's hospitality. That's what we do. We're professional hospitality servers. That's what our job is. So I want to take care of people, and I don't want to be responsible for spreading the virus. So we have done everything we can do to accommodate the CDC guidelines, and we've tried to add to that. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. And that's why I say, you know what, if you see us and we're doing something that makes you uncomfortable, say it. It's not going to hurt our feelings. I've walked into my restaurant, and everybody's wearing a mask, and I wasn't, because I totally forgot. And I'm walking around talking to people, and everybody's looking at me, and they're like, hey, Todd. I'm like, what? And they're like, you're making us wear a mask. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I ran back, and I put my gloves on and all that. It's a hard habit. Everybody's relearning it. This is all new. It's not something that we've been doing for a long time, which brings me to another point, which is I think people, one, need to be kind to each other. um, everywhere on social media. Social media is brutal. I won't get on it because I'm scared of it. Um, but I think people need to be nice to each other. They need to talk nice to each other. There's nothing wrong with having disagreements. Um, and feeling different way. But when you go to a public place, then you got to be aware of how people feel. But the restaurants right now are going through a learning curve because everything that we've learned for the last, I've been in the restaurant business 35 years, and everything just changed in 60 days. So I'm trying to take all my 35 years of experience. How do I apply it to this? Nobody's ever done this or seen this. Um, so when we do make a mistake, because we make a lot of them, just like anybody else. If I came to a lawyer's office and I looked over his shoulder, I'm sure I'd see him make a mistake. And if I pointed it out and went out and told everybody in the world about it, they'd get angry with me. So I'm like, give us a chance to fix problems first, because that's what we do. Again, hospitality is the word of the day, but give us a chance to fix it. If we don't fix it and we don't do it right, then go bash us on social media. Have at it, and then we deserve it. Okay, but people are people. They're not machines. We're not computers. I have a deep, deep passion about hospitality and taking care of people, and I still screw up. I still have days where, I've had people complain about me, and I'm like, about me? I'm like, it's my restaurant. I love this place. I love these people, but we're human beings, and there truly is a disconnect, and people go home and they get on their computer and they want to type, 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 and then it seems like they get angrier and angrier as they think about it. And I'm like, look, if you had just said one word to me while you were in the restaurant, I could remake your food. I can, at last resort, I buy food. I don't like to buy food. We're not in the business of that. We're in the business of selling food. But if we make a mistake and we don't deliver, I guarantee everything. I'll buy your food. I don't care.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is fix it. And what we want to do is make you feel good. And what we want to do is do our job. And our job is to make you feel good and like you're in our house. So this coronavirus thing has made everything 10 times harder. And so we're like ultra focusing on make sure you're perfect. Don't screw up. Don't screw up. Don't screw up. And I'm asking is the people of Naples, because I love them and they're good, and I've seen so much good being done. People helping people and giving, not just money but food and time, and their efforts. But people of Naples, when we make a mistake, tell us. Any restaurant, not just me. Any restaurant. Okay. If a business makes a mistake, these are independent restaurants, independent businesses, not just restaurants, but these are your neighbors, your friends, and your family, right? If you walk next door to your neighbor and he owned a restaurant, you would probably say, and you had a bad experience, you'd probably say, hey, come here for a second. Hey, I was at your restaurant today, and I just want you to know, something went wrong and it wasn't up to par, it wasn't up to scratch. I'd be like, thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want you to tell me. But if you don't know them, it's really easy to be like, I went over there, they sucked. And if they don't suck, they're humans. They make mistakes. And if you don't give them that opportunity, they don't get to, we don't get better unless you say, hey, my burger's overcooked. Hey, my server wasn't very attentive. When people tell me that, it's a learning, or it's an opportunity for me to get better. And that's the part of social media that I have a hard time with. Because when I do deserve a bad review, I'll straight out call the person personally. I try to track them down, and I say, you know what? We messed up.
Yeah.
And I want you to come back to my restaurant. I'm not only going to buy your food, but I want you to come down. I want to meet you, and then I want to serve you, and I want to cook your food. And I've done that for many people.
Yeah.
And I tell them, this is what I've been trying to accomplish. So when this doesn't happen, let me know, because there was a failure somewhere that we need to fix. But that's every business in the world,
Absolutely. I wanted to, ask you for the people that haven't had the chance to go to any of the locations, if you could tell us, not only the addresses, but roughly where they are located, and also perhaps not phone numbers, but website where people can find more about the menu and more about the food, and more about the history, and your social media handles too, where you are, so people can kind of follow you as well.
Okay, and then when I'm done with that, I'm going to tell you a half secret about something we're working on, but I'm not going to give it completely away.
All right.
So
I might call you after fourth, though.
I'll tell you somewhere else, right?
All
So
right.
we have downtown at 3309 Street. It's at 3rd and 41. That's the original. And all of our hours are have been changed right now. We're closed on Sundays and Mondays because we haven't been able to get all of our employees back. Some of them still are either uncomfortable or they're not ready to come back for other reasons, but it's a different story. So uh, we're closed on Sundays and Mondays. We hope to be back open our regular hours in about 2 to 3 weeks once we get everybody fully hired back. Cross our fingers. We're open from 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. When we're busy at 8 p.m., I've told all the managers, like, if you're busy, stay open. If people want to be here, let them be here. So uh, those are the hours. Downtown, we have Vanderbilt, which is at Vanderbilt Beach Road in 41, right next to the Pavilion Movie Theater,
Mhm.
which we hope they get open soon. And if they do, take care of them. It's a great people that own it. Um, and then we have Logan's Landing. It's at Logan Boulevard in Immokalee,
Mhm.
in the uh, Logan Landing
Yeah.
Shopping Center, right next to Sprout.
Fairly new shopping center in there.
Yeah, brand new. It's right next to Logan's Landing, um, and that's where the ice cream shop is. And we have full bar, happy hour, and all those things too. And then we're at Freedom Square, which is out on the East Trail at 950. Is it 951 Collier Boulevard and 41. We're kind of hidden there, so you got to look for us. So out on the East Trail, we're next to Publix. We're kind of behind all the other restaurants, so it's definitely worth taking the time to kind of search us out and find us out there. But they also have a full bar. They have happy hour. Um, we are we're in the process of we're going to build a patio on the front side of it because right now it's part of a strip mall, so it kind of blends in and it doesn't have a great warm feel when you're under the front. So we're going to do a patio on the front, and then we're going to do a beer garden in the back where we're going to have fire pits and I think 4 or 5 fire pits with chairs around them so you can sit out and you can have appetizers and cocktails and you can do that after or before dinner or whatever you want. So that's going to be really fun and unique. That's going to be a big addition. So those are the 4 locations, and you can find any of the information, menus, hours, anything at brooksburgers.com.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to talking to me. But before I go, I want to hear what's the half a secret you're about to let out here.
Okay, so it's not on face value. On face value, it's everybody's like, what? But then after I explain it to them, they're like, oh, that's cool. So we're going to do out at our Logan Landing location. Um, Trying to do this how we don't give it away too much. We're going to do we're reworking the menu right now to add some entrees, kind of tavernish, like I told you. But we're also going to be adding a part of the bar. We're going to be okay. I'll just tell you. So we're going to be what we're trying to accomplish before season hits is we're going to add a part of the bar where we're going to do a home brew craft beer area. Okay, and everybody's like, oh, everybody does that right now. Well, they do, but we're not going to be brewing beer. I don't want to brew beer. I'm not a brewmeister or brewmaster. I don't have the skills. So what we're trying to do is we're going to try to collaborate with brewmasters from all over the United States, probably start in Florida. I'm thinking big, and we're going to have them come in once a week, and they're going to brew a secret recipe that you can't get anywhere else. It's not going to be available retail. It's not going to be available at your local store. It's not going to be available at the restaurants that are in Naples. So if you're a craft beer person, what we're trying to do is create kind of like a club-like atmosphere for this.
Yeah.
And you will only be able to get it there, and you'll only be able to get it for 3 days, and then it'll disappear forever. So the objective of this is to go to like a brewery and say, hey, we would like you to come in. We'll feature and advertise your beers for you. But while you're here, we want you to make like 3 barrels at our restaurant with our equipment, and that's all we're going to do. We're not going to ever brew beer for us or anything else. We're just going to we're going to have other brewmasters come in, kind of like going back to where you have like a wine dinner and the chef gets to come out and do what chefs do. So what we want to do is the brewmaster to come out and do what a brewmaster does. We don't want them to make something that they have at their place. We don't want them to make something you can buy. We want them to come in and make something that they're passionate about and make 3 kegs at a time, and that's it. And when it's gone, and you'll never see it again. So we're hoping that each week we'll have something lined up. So a different brewery will come in, and maybe one week it's a home brewer, not necessarily a brewmaster, but they'll come in and say, I want to make a beer, so make something special. And it'll be kind of a high demand for it because there won't be, there's 3 kegs, that's it. You never see it again. Yeah. So if you're a craft beer guy, or lady that loves that experience, we're going to create something that you get to come and try, and then you better enjoy it and remember it because you won't be able to repeat it.
Awesome. That's great. Let me just see before I say goodbye to you here. I think there's a question here. No question. It's just comments. People saying that it's they love the food there. So couple comments. People complimenting on the food. Well, Todd, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to talk to me. I've learned so much about the business that I think I appreciate even more. I already did before, and I kept going back for the food. I got my neighbors hooked on it too. They tried last week, and they sent me a message saying that they're going back this weekend again. So
awesome.
They're hooked on it. I invite everybody that hasn't had the opportunity to try it out. I guarantee you're gonna love it. And wanted to thank you for taking the time and telling us a little bit about your background, a little bit about the restaurant, and how you've been dealing with the situation.
Sure. And the only thing I want to say before I go real fast is people out there that are wondering to themselves, how do I help in this situation that's happening right now? You don't have to do anything dramatic. You just have to do what you know how to do. So a perfect example is what you're doing right now with helping expose businesses. And like what I do is I go and I cook food for people that, we help hungry children in hospitals and different things like that. So anything that you do, just do what you know how to do. If you're a tax preparer and you can go do taxes for some people that can't get out of their house or can't afford it, that's what you do. Yep. You don't have to save the world. You don't have to give tons of money. Just do what you know how to do and help your neighbor with that. If everybody did that, we would be in a really good spot right now because people have all kinds of different talents.
For sure. Awesome. Well,
thank you.
I hope to see you at one of the restaurants. I go often enough that hopefully I'll catch up with you in one of the places.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll talk.
All right. Bye.